Hi, I'm Hannah,
I'm Liam.
and welcome to our BookTube channel.
So probably the best way to get started is just by answering the question why we wanted to start a YouTube channel in the first place.
So, reading is one of our favorite hobbies, and we like talking about the books we read to each other, and it seemed like a natural progression to start a BookTube channel to be able to share what we're reading and talk more about the books that we love.
I think every time we're reading next to each other, I'm always just the first thought that comes to my head every time I read saying it out loud to you. So this is maybe a good opportunity for me to hear your thoughts on what you think about your books. And then everything that I say will probably just be a repeat of what I said before.
It's okay.
A big thing for me, I think, is just that it will be rewarding to spend more time thinking about the books that we read. And by going back, making notes, talking about all of our thoughts in the videos, it will help us kind of condense, what's the word I'm looking for? I think just the whole act of taking the time to write down what we thought, talking about it in a video, spending some more time with the books will help reinforce what we thought. If it's a book that meant a lot to us, maybe we'll discover new things. And it'll be a good process just for ourselves, even if nobody watches our channel.
Yeah. I know that I can forget a book almost as soon as I finish reading it, and the act of thinking through topics and points to talk about in relation to the book will hopefully help me retain more of the information.
Yeah, retain is the word I was looking for. Second question is, what will be unique about our channel? I think one thing is just that both of us have pretty varied tastes, and those varied tastes are quite different. So no matter what type of book you like, probably there's going to be some overlap with one of us.
Another thing is that we will definitely focus on books, but we also love movies and music, and so expect to see some videos of us talking about those as well on this channel. I think we cover a very wide variety of genres when it comes to reading, and hopefully that keeps it interesting, keeps it a bit spicy, if you will.
So I guess on that topic, what are our favorite types of books and our favorite genres?
I really love memoirs, especially music memoirs and food memoirs. I love literary fiction, especially kind of like that weird girl literary fiction, an occasional romance novel. I feel like that covers it.
What are your favorite individual books?
Just Kids by Patti Smith. One I read last year, but that I think would be one of my favorite books is The Year of Miracles by Ella Risbridger. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I know that that's a controversial one. I love it.
Maybe that'll be a video in the future, you defending your take.
Slouching Toward Bethlehem by Joan Didion. Any Joan Didion book, really. My Life in France by Julia Child.
A lot of books. Genre?
Oh.
No, go ahead. say more.
Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. That's the end.
Genres for me, I really love mystery books. I feel like that's probably my number one genre, but I also really like sci-fi, horror, like the classics. I like reading Shakespeare. I feel like I pretty much like everything except for maybe romance. I don't know. I've never read a romance book that I've liked, but one of my favorite movies, or my favorite movie, is Before Sunrise, and that whole trilogy. So I think there's probably a romance book for me. I just don't know if I found it yet. But I like a pretty wide array of books. I think in terms of favorites, I guess one thing about me and my reading is that I kind of had a big gap in my life where I wasn't reading. So I think my favorites are a mixture of things that I've read in the past couple years, and then some stuff I read quite a while ago that I think I need to go back to and see if I still like them as much. Books I think of, though, in terms of my favorites would be A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right. East of Eden. I love The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo trilogy. I love the Dune series, Hercule Poirot, the Anna Green Gables books. But something that's fun about maybe not have been, maybe not of reading, maybe not, something that's fun about having spent some time away from reading is that I feel like there's so much for me to discover, and I'm still in that stage that I passed a long time ago with movies where every book I read could potentially be a favorite. So it's pretty exciting. I haven't reached that point where my favorites are set in stone. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to watch a movie and it's going to impact me more than Before Sunset did the first time I watched it. But for a book, who knows? I could read a book that will be the best thing I ever read at any time. So it is exciting. On that subject, Hannah, when did you start reading, or what is your relationship with reading?
I have always been a big reader. I would say, like, middle of high school, I didn't really read very much, but then towards the end of high school, I started getting really into music memoirs, and that definitely sparked a resurgence in reading for me, and I haven't stopped since. I read constantly, and I would say it's one of my, like, core hobbies.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you want to talk about the Franklin origins?
What about me reading Franklin?
Yeah, I just feel like that's a good how you started, like,
Yeah.
with your stack of Franklin books.
I read a lot as a kid and always had a stack of Franklin books or a stack of Arthur books, and really did love quiet time in my room just reading, and that went on to, like, the Magic Treehouse books and a series of Unfortunate Events and Harry Potter, and it just never stopped.
I feel like I had similar beginnings, but then it definitely stopped. I read a lot of Gordon Corman, Beverly Cleary, got into the Harry Potter series, stuff like that. But then getting into high school, I really slowed down on my reading, and I think part of it was the being assigned books or connecting it with academics and less something that you do for fun. Into university, I read maybe one book every 2 years. So I was really dialed back, toned down from when I was a kid. But maybe like 4 years ago, I started trying to read more. I started setting some goals for myself, but it was still only like 10 books to 12 books a year. And then I really started ramping it up when we started dating, because Hannah reads all the time, and it became kind of a fun thing for us to do together.
Yeah.
And I feel like all of the love I had for reading as a kid has come back to me. And now we can compete on our reading goals every year, when I used to think, like, you'd be like 50 books ahead of me.
No.
But now we're neck and neck
in
our reading competition. Where do we read? And what format do we read?
Mostly we read in bed.
Yeah.
I would say that, like, when the weather's nice, it's my favorite thing to read in the park or read outside in the sunshine.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of my favorite parts of the day are how we read when we wake up, we read, and then when we go to bed. I spend a lot more time reading at night. Hannah falls asleep a lot faster. But those are my favorite reading times. Also, public transit.
Yeah.
Sometimes during the day on the couch, sometimes at a coffee shop. But I do think the bed is like the core reading zone. The format that we read, mostly paper, like almost entirely paper.
I am exclusively like a real physical book.
But you're much more of a library person than I am.
Yeah, I would be lost without the library.
I really appreciate the library. I buy so many secondhand books, though, that I always have a mountain of stuff that I need to get through at home already. So I don't need to use the library as much. But in terms of buying books, we both really love going secondhand book shopping, and we have tons of stores, luckily, close to us. There's like 4 or 5 really good bookstores within walking distance.
Yeah. I will say that probably a big difference between the way that both of us read is that I feel like I keep on top of new books that are coming out that I know that I'll want to read. You are a big kind of classics reader, older books reader, and so it's much easier for you to find books at secondhand bookstores, I need to rely on the library to get the newer books rather than going and buying everything, because I'm not going to love every book that I read.
That's a good point. I also listen to audiobooks using the Libby app. I sometimes read ebooks on my phone every once in a while. Like, it sometimes makes it easier reading in class or reading on the subway. So I think I probably have more variety in the formats that I read. I have a Kindle that I don't really use, but definitely prefer reading physical books. The last question is, what are the challenges that we think we'll face when doing a BookTube channel?
I do think that it's fun for us to film TikToks, but it's quite snappy.
Yeah.
Because the format is so short and
it's
concise.
easier to sit down and do it.
Yeah. So just carving out the time to be able to film a longer form video will be something. And also just kind of hoping that people will see it, because I think it could end up being difficult if we feel like we're not talking to anybody.
Yeah, I think the resilience of like having barely anybody watching the videos but still making them, and I think detaching the project away from how many people watch the videos, because I'm having fun recording this now.
Me too.
And I was having fun when I was writing down my thoughts about the books that we're going to talk about. So I don't want to have that obsessively like checking to see how many people have watched it, because that's not even the fun part of doing it in the first place. I also think just the general anxiety of putting yourself out there and convincing yourself that your thoughts deserve to be said or that your thoughts matter, always fighting through that will be a challenge. Yeah. Thank you for listening to all of our rambling, if you are listening to our rambling. And we hope that you will join us on our channel as we talk about all the books and the movies and the music that we like.
Toronto bookstores, maybe a recipe or two from a cookbook. But yeah, thank you for watching.